All right, so let me just make the Visual Studio full screen here. All right, so let's create a custom component here that will just display the time like a digital clock. So I'll create a new class named I just added here in the root project digital clock. Okay, just add it, and let's make that public. And because this is going to be the actual control that's going to be displayed in the toolbox and dragged on the screen, so it has to inherit from route control. Add a using statement here, and yeah. And now I'm going to create the actual structure, the representation of the button. So what I'll need is a root element. So I'll create another class named digital clock element, and notice that this time I'm going to inherit from that element. All right, and now the root element is going to represent is going to do all the things that associated with a simple digital clock. So I will have a property for the current time. So let me just add public static right property current time property equals right property dot register, and now I need the name of the property current time, and let me just put it on a new one. Then we need a property type. It will be a type of string, but that can also be a datetime, but string is sufficient for today's demo. And the owner of this property is digital clock element, the element that holds the property. And now let's add what property metadata. What element property metadata, and notice that a number of overrides. So it has a default value. I'll just add a default value of null, but string.empty is a good candidate also. And then, yeah, notice that we have an option to add element property options. So what are those? So we have things like affects arrange, affects display, affects layout, affects measure. So when the property gets changed, there are a number of things that can invalidate, that can be invalidated and affected by this change. So for this case, I'll just use affects display. And what this is saying to the system is when the current time property gets set, this property is affecting the display of the control. So invalidate the display. All right. And let me add the CMR property for that. There's some current time property. And what's the problem here? Oh, yeah, okay, I get it. Let me just remove those. All right, so use the arrow syntax for getters and setters. And use, another arrow when the setter gets executed. We call the set value method of the rat object as you see, and I need to specify the property, current time property, and the value. So just that. We have the rat property, the dependency property, and the CLR property in place. All right, let's now add methods that will uh, let's now add a timer first that will actually update the current time property. So just add a private timer. And let's create the child elements for this element, and we will initialize the timer in that method. So I'll just hit override, create child elements, and in this method we are responsible for creating the child elements of this fat element. So I'll just need to add I will add first the properties of this element, the digital clock element as fields. So have things like just the text primitive that will display the text of the clock, the field primitive which will display the background, and the border. Okay, so I'll just add the fields, and here in the create child elements, I will just initialize them. So this dot background equals new field primitive, and let me just add it to the children. This dot children add this dot background. This is how the route controls are created, actually. Sort of. Text primitive. You can imagine that this process is a bit more involved for complex properties. Let me just add now this dot text dot margin equals a new padding of 10. All right, and this dot children at this dot text. And let's do the same for the border primitive. Just initializing the primitives, and let me create the update timer. New timer. Maybe I'm using the wrong timer here. I'll just going to system Windows Forms timer. Yeah. So we need an interval of something like I don't know, 100 milliseconds to create a 10 FPS for this timer. And update time dot tick. I'm going to hook up on timer tick. Okay, and when the timer gets the timer ticks, I'll call just this set value for the current time property. Or I can just use this dot current time because it will do exactly the same thing. Equals datetime dot now, and I'll just format it as to string. And I'll use a format using that will just bring me just the time. And I'm updating that in a timer on an interval of 100 milliseconds. So it will just tick, and it will always give me the current time. All right, and now what I need to do is just display the current time on the screen. And how I'm going to do that? I'm going to bind the text primitive. I'm going to bind property text primitive. So I'm binding the text primitive dot text property, the text property of the text primitive, which is the source object of this binding. So this is the actual digital clock element, then which is the source property. So this is the digital clock element dot current time property. So when the current time property of this digital clock changes, update the text property of the text primitive. And what is the property binding options? Well, this is going to be a one-way street. So the changes occur in one direction from the current time property of this digital clock to to the text property of the text. And that's about it. Yeah, it's not a lot of code, but all it does is it creates a full-fledged wrap element that can display some text, fill, and a border. And the text is going to be updated automatically using a timer to just display the current time. You can always also do that using a simple route label, but yeah, it's nice here to just leverage the TPF and see what properties and the primitives and how we can use those. All right, and how do we plug this digital clock element to the route control? So again, another override, create children items. All right, and let me first create a field for this. Private digital clock element. And clock element equals new. And this root element dot children dot add clock element. All right, and yeah, let's now try to add some API for this digital clock that can start it and stop it, because now with its current implementation, when it's created, it's not started, so it won't do anything. So let me just put two methods here. Public void start, that all it will do is just call this update time dot start and the same for stop. This update time dot stop. All right, and when I create it here in the route control, I'll just call clock element dot start, and it will start the updating of the digital clock. All right, and yeah, let's try to provide some default sizing for this route control. So I'm just going to override the default size property here, and let's return a new size of something like a 200 by 100 pixels. Okay, and yeah, I think we are pretty much done. You can add also some other cool properties like is the digital clock currently being updated? Like, is it active? And we can just expose that on the digital control. So that's kind of nice and neat. Let's do that. And that's about it. And one important attribute that you need to add to this digital clock control is the toolbox item attribute. And you have to add a reference to using system.component model. And you need to say, okay, it's on default time. And this will actually, when I build it, this should populate the digital clock to the Visual Studio Toolbox. So let me open up the route form now. And let's examine if it is here. Let me search for it. And yeah, you see now, here I have in the toolbox, the TPF hello components, and the digital clock is automatically populated for me. All right, so let me just drag and drop it. And you see that it creates this sort of rectangle looking thing that has the time in it. And I can also just do the same as with the button, edit UI elements, and it will show me the structure for it. And you see that we have a root route element in which I have a single digital clock element that we just created with the fill, text, and border primitives. And if I want to make this the text a little bit larger, I can do that. All right. Okay, so that's the power and the beauty of the TPF, that you can easily create stuff like that. You can just completely customize and or how the works of a component, or you can just create some component that's not present in the suite, in the UI Telerik UI suite, and you can just create components. So you saw that I didn't override on paint or stuff like that. I just leverage the TPF with its primitives to create the UI. Okay. And let's now move back to the slides and leave this Hello World application for now. And let's talk about themes. And as I told you, there are a bunch of themes that come with the Telerik UI installation. So let's explore one cool uh, let's explore one cool tool, the Telerik Theme Viewer. It's very useful. And let me just show you. Let me show you an interesting thing. If I open the folder in the file export here, in the TPF Hero project, and here it is. And let me navigate to the directory. So you notice that there is a lib folder. So who created that? That was added by the project template. So here it copied my WinForms installation for me, the WinForms assemblies for me, and here I can actually find the team viewer. So I did not copy that; it was automatically done for me by the Visual Studio extension and project templates. So, and here you can find the team viewer and also the Visual Style Builder, which we will use in a bit. But let's start with the team viewer. So that's a standalone application that comes with the suite, and you can use that to do just a couple of things. So I find this team viewer useful for just exploring what's in the box and what are the default controls that come with the Telerik suite. So here we have things like the buttons, the different kinds of buttons, toggle switches, checkboxes, and progress and waiting bars, range selectors. Yeah, that's a cool guy. The calendar. Yeah, you see that there's an analog clock, and we already created our own digital clock. Yeah, so that's a nice addition. There's some item containers like a page view, Outlook mode. Yeah, cool. Lot of digital cool stuff. All right. Here's a chatting solution. And the cool thing about this team viewer, and why is it called a team viewer, is that you can choose a theme. So you can see what those components will look like in a specific theme. So let's explore the Fuen theme that was introduced only recently. And this is how it looks like. See? Yeah, it's very, very cool, I think. And you see that switching a theme just affects the complete UI of the application from the form to all the components. As you see that here is the gun view. As I told you, the Telerik doesn't come with only simple components, but also with some big components like the gun view that allow you to create just this gun view if you need to do that. And there is also a pivot grid, which is a very powerful tool to display data. Like I can just drill here by month and advertisement and just collapse and expand and do my business decisions here based on that pivot. It's a very cool component, and it's responding to theme changes. So I can either load this theme by default, or I can change it on runtime. So let's see the Fuen dark theme. And yeah, now we have a dark theme with just a click of a button. And there is also the PDF viewer component. So that's very cool if you want to open up a PDF and display it in your application. The Telerik PDF viewer is a great component. And one of my personal favorites is the rich text editor, so which allows your customer to enter rich text in your application and do things like document processing. So that's very, very powerful. And the good component also is very powerful too. So you can see there's a bunch of things that you can do in the team viewer, not only export the team. Yeah, you see the Fluent team brings this just you see the mouse effects here that appear. So my mouse was here, and when I move the mouse, those cool effects appear. Yeah. All right. Let's now switch to the slides and see how we can use those themes in our own application, not just the team viewer. Okay. So you can either set a theme using the smart tag, or you can do it in a code behind. But I should mention that all the themes that come with the Telerik UI suite for WinForms since R2 2008, that's 10 years ago almost, are available. They're available as standalone components, and they're different from the control assemblies. So this has been added in order to simplify the way themes are added to the application and also to improve the application loading time. So you need to reference only those themes that you are actually going to use. And here you can see in the smart tag, it automatically picked that I have the control default and the method themes installed, referenced to. I have only the Telerik method theme referenced to my project, so it was picked by the smart tag. So if you have installed the suite from the provided installation files, you see the themes are located in the Visual Studio Toolbox. So you can just drag and drop them on your design surface. And you see here in the red rectangle that I have added the Telerik method theme as a component to my design surface. So you can either drag and drop them, and this will automatically add a reference to the corresponding theme assembly in the project. So that's really cool. And then you can use the theme name in the smart tag. And there is also another way, and you may find this a bit easier and more useful. So you have to add, if you want to set a theme in code behind, first what you do is add a reference to the Fluent theme here. I just want to add the Fluent theme to my application, so I need to add a reference to the Fluent theme assembly. And then what I do is I will just instantiate that theme. And one cool thing that those themes have a property named theme name, so I don't have to remember some magical string that represents the name of the theme. I can just use that property theme name to set it to the what form theme, and yeah, I can just do that in the constructor of my form, or I can do that on a button click or stuff like that. And this will set it only to my what form. But what if I want to set it as the default theme for the entire application, for all the forms and controls in those forms? How do I do that? Well, you can use the theme resolution service application theme name, and again set the theme name as a string, and this will set it as the default theme for the entire application. So, and one thing that's important is that all your controls will use the specified theme which has precedence over the theme set locally to the control using the theme name property. So that's actually can be a bit misleading at start, but the application theme name takes precedence over this guy here, the theme name. So, and you can actually opt out of that application theme. And the way you do that is you just set a property, enable application theme name equals false, and you set that on the element tree. And with that, you you just opt out of that application theme. All right, and let's talk about how you can vote additional themes. So if you want to give the user the opportunity to switch the application theme at runtime, and you want to provide more than one theme, then it can be a good option to load those themes in a separate thread. Why? Because if you all instantiate those themes at compiled at the program.cs or at your main form constructor, then they have to all be loaded in order for your application to start. And this can actually take time. For example, here in that snippet, I'm just referencing a bunch of themes, and this is taking on my PC at an average of 400 milliseconds. So I'm not using all of those themes at startup, but if I reference all of them in my program.cs, then it will just unnecessarily slow down the application startup time. So what I can do is just call task.run, which will start another thread pull thread for me. It will reference all those themes. I can also assign them to some fields if I need to, and then they will be used. Then they can be used to they can be used in my application. But now I'm not slowing the application startup process. All right, and now the Visual Style Builder, which is another built-in tool that comes with the Telerik UI suite, and it is very powerful. So let's switch back to let's switch back from the slides, and let me open up the Visual Style Builder. You can find it here just below the Team Viewer. So that's the Visual Style Builder application. It's a standalone application, and let me just open it. So what's the Visual Style Builder? Well, it allows you to explore the building components and their structure, and also it allows you to either create a custom theme for your controls or leverage a built-in theme and customize it. So if you happen to be setting the same kind of properties over and over again to the same elements, if you want to make all of your LUT buttons look like an ellipse, like we did in our previous coding exercise, and just you can do that very easily with a custom theme. Or if you just are not happy with some color and you need to change it, you can just open the Visual Style Builder and update the theme. So let me show you how we can do that. Just minimize that. All right. So one cool thing is that we can open up a predefined theme that comes with the Telerik suite and build upon it. You can also create a custom theme just completely from scratch, but this is a lot of work, and usually most of the time you just be updating an existing theme. And how do we start with an existing theme? Well, if you open up the file menu here, there is this export built-in themes menu item, and then I click it. It will ask me for a folder where I need to select a folder in which it will create it will export the themes for me. Just click the OK, and let's open this folder, the themes, and you see here that all of the predefined themes get exported as this special kind of style sheet package. So now what I do is if I want to edit the control default theme, I can just either double click it or I can just open it using the file open package. And let's open the control default theme. Okay. All right. And now I have loaded a predefined theme. It's pretty cool. And let's do the same thing for our button. Yeah, here in the button, you see that I have the button element and I want to customize it. And let's see what the Visual Style Builder gives us. So first we have the control structure. You can explore the controls that are built here that come with the suite, and we can explore their elements. And yeah, here you can see in the bottom section we have the elements like the right button element, the image and text layout panel, the button fill, button border, the things that we are already familiar with it, and we can customize each one of those. So and then we have also element states. So we have things like the normal state, then we have things like mouse over state. So when I hover with my mouse, I just the right button automatically switches to a mouse over state, and that's this guy over here. And it can also have the pressed state and the disabled state. All right, and you see that uh, this is wife, so I can order those styles, and it will be automatically be applied to this button. I can preview my changes. So let's now select the button fill here. Oh yeah, sorry, one thing that I forgot is those repositories, and those are actually quite important. So can think about the repositories as a kind of style that can be applied to those buttons, but not exactly. It's just a bag of property settings that can be applied to an element. So, for example, if I'm setting some textual properties like font size, font family, foreground, cover, stuff like that, I can create a repository that targets a text primitive and wrap those property settings in a repository, and I can use that over and over again on those text primitives. So here in the repositories, you see all of those repositories that have been created for the control default team. So there are quite a lot of those. And the ones that I used are actually with a check mark here. So let me just select the button fill. And you notice that the repository named button mouse over fill has a checkbox. So that's actually applied. I can just deselect it. That's the mouse over. And for the normal state, we have the button normal fill repository. And if I remove it, you see it's automatically applied. So let's apply some customization to this control default theme. And yeah, I have selected here the normal state. And let's make some changes to this button normal fill repository. I can use this button here to edit the repository item. All right, and let's change this gradient here. Can use some solid color, or you can use some linear color, office glass. Okay, now you get this nice preview here. So let's put just a simple linear gradient, and let's select an orange quick theme. Okay, and let me click alright. Okay, and you see that's automatically applied to the button element. And let's also try to change the mouse over. So I select the mouse over state. Then you see that the button mouse over fill repository gets highlighted because it's the one that's applied to that state, and it's the same thing. And let me just change this gradient here. I want to select the yellow quick theme here. Just gives me some gradient options here. Click OK. And now when I move my mouse over it, you see that I have changed this button appearance. Okay, and let's now create a repository so we can see how it's done. Okay, so I'll just create a new repository that will change the text primitive's appearance. So I hit here the create new repository item button that's displayed here in the in the bottom right corner. And I'll be targeting a text. Okay, the create. All right, and this gives me the text properties that go with the text primitive. So let me just change the font size to 10 points. And let's put some foreground color to it. Let me just put some foreground color of, let's select white, just a simple white foreground color. Okay, and one interesting thing about repository is that in the repository, only the properties that I create here are stored. So notice here those two picture-like indicators that get set here in the font and the foreground for color properties. This means that only those two properties will be stored, only the values for those two properties will be stored in my repository. Nothing else will be stored. So this reduces the size of the XML and makes it reusable. So let's create a name for our repository item, and let's name it button normal text, and the display name will be the same. Okay, let me just hit the OK button here, and let me now apply that to the text primitive. And usually your own repositories will be located here in the bottom. And we see when I scroll to the bottom of the list, the button normal text repository is available. So I just select it, and you see that my button foreground is now white and a bit bigger. Okay, and let's now try to create a custom theme out of. Let's now export this theme that we have just modified, and I'll just click File Save As, and I'll just save. I'll just leave all of the defaults. It will be saved as a package, and it will just create a modification of the control default theme, and I'll just name it my control default theme. And let me just put it here in the D themes. Okay, hit the OK button, and let me just close that. All right, let me go here to the themes folder, and I should find my control default package. So, and let's see how we can load that to our TPF Hero application. So I'll just get it, start debugging it, and I'll just put it here in the TPF Hero. All right, and let me just go to the properties. Go to the properties and make sure that the build action is set to embedded resource. All right. But before we apply this theme that we have just created, I know that you're anxious. Let's try to explore some other themes and see how they behave. Let me just add here some other buttons and elements so you can see how they behave. Let's add a bullet graph. And that's a nice component, the red bullet graph. Okay, and let's now add the theme. You can either drag it from the toolbox. You see here in the Telerik UI from WinForms themes, there's a bunch of themes. So you can just add the, let's see what the office, oh, let's add the font theme. You can just drag and drop it, just like that, and it will automatically add a reference to the Telerik controls themes.font. And now, in order to apply it, I can either go here to the right button and say theme name is font, and it gets changed. Or I can just be smart and apply it all at once using the theme name. So let's now switch here, and in the platform one, let's say Telerik win controls theme resolution service dot application theme name, is equal to, so how do I add it? I can use the when team component dot team name. All right. So I don't have to remember the name of the team. I can just use the property. All right. And let's just start that and see. All right. So now you see that the theme was automatically applied to the form and to the two buttons here, and also to the border graph. But it wasn't applied to the the button that we customized. It was applied to the border. No, that's the focus visual, but it wasn't applied to the background. Why? Because we have customized it ourselves, and the team doesn't override that. All right. Let's now try to load the team that we have created. And how we can do that? We can use another method. Telerik.wincontrols.teamResolutionService.load package resource. And notice what the method says. Loads a team package stored in the provided embedded resource. The current assembly is used to read the manifest resource stream. All right. And here you remember that when using embedded resources, you have to provide the fully qualified name. So this will be the tpf hello dot my control default file tsp. Okay. And it gives us a boolean if it has succeeded or not. And now let me apply that to the application team. And I will just use a special string here that is the name of the custom team that I have created, the my control default team, because that's the name that I have selected. Okay, let's just build that, run it, and see. Okay, so what we see now is that the control default team was applied, but the buttons here are styled to know just the way that I defined them using the style builder. So the style builder is a very powerful tool. There is a nice documentation provided on the Telerik documentation site for that. So you can go ahead and check it out. There are a bunch of videos that explore the Visual Style Builder in depth. So if you are interested in this topic, just make sure to watch them. All right, let's now move back to the slides and talk about the converter. So let's say that you have some applications that are using the stock the stock WinForms controls, and you're convinced that what controls are great and you want to leverage the cool features that they bring. So how do you do that? Well, you have to convert your controls to the RAD controls equivalent so that they can use things like teamings and TPF. And the one option is to do it manually, but this can be very tedious. And there's a better way. You can use the WinForms converter that the Telerik guys have created. So the WinForms converter has a large number of supported controls. It's using the Roslyn compiler, and it's very powerful. It just doesn't simply replace some strings, but it knows what your code is doing, and it can to a high degree convert your application without pain and suffering. And it will give you the real-time differences. So it will create a backup for you and give you a log file saying what it has changed. So it's a very nice tool. And also you can use the converter to convert to a specific version. Both C# and Visual Basic is supported, and yeah, that's great. And let's convert an existing application. For that demo, I have been looking on the internet for some for some application that's both interesting and using the stock controls. And I have selected this one. It's stored on, it's hosted here in the code project. It's named Social Club, and I have just can just check out here in the code project blog about it. The author has done a great job of explaining what he has done, why he has done it in such a way. And it's a highly rated application, so I think it's a good candidate for our conversion demo. All right. So, but before we start, I should mention that I have made some small, tiny modification to that application so that it's easy to build, and you can check out the code on GitHub for that. But yeah, I'll just tell you what those changes are. So here's the, okay, so let me just, sorry about that. I have to undo some changes here in GitHub. Okay, it's not buildable. Yeah, okay, so what I have done and what my code here on GitHub is different from the one that the author has written is that I have moved the database here. So this application is using an Access database, so I have moved it out of the out of the bin folder and into the project, and I have set one build action to copy to output directory always. So when I build it, it will just copy it to the output directory for me. And I have also added some NuGet packages, the Microsoft Office Interop Excel. I have added that as a NuGet package. And also one important change that I made is that I have made the login page here. It is displayed before everything else. So the author in its original demo was just starting the application. Here in the application one, he was providing the login form. And what I have done instead is just creating here the login, showing it as a dialog. And if it succeeds, if it returns a dialog result of OK, I just launch the application.run and I provide the main form. So it's just a small change, but with a big consequence. So if you just debug his application, you see that when you close the manage form, which is the main one, the application just continues to run because the login window is the main one, but it's actually hidden. So it's just a kind of bug, and this is the code that actually fixes it. Okay, and apart from that, the code is absolutely identical. And let's just launch this application and see what it's doing. So here we see the login window, and I can log in, but here I'm just using some demo, some test credentials. It's demo and demo123, and hit the login button. Oops, made a mistake. Demo123. All right, and it's open the Social Club application. And here I can just register a new Social Club member, and I can also view what are the Social Club members, what their date of birth, occupation, health status are. And it's a nice application. You can check it out and see how it was built. And let's just now try to use the converter to convert it to the route controls. Okay, let's switch back to Visual Studio. So this project is completely stock. I haven't added any Telerik references here to it. And let's start the conversion process. So I'll just close those documents here. And I should mention that this project is in GitHub currently, and that's why I have version control of it. And I find conversion with I find it safer to have my project in a version control system like Git when I'm doing the conversion, because I can monitor the changes in every step. And I'll show you that. Okay, so let's start the conversion process for this project. So I go here to the Telerik UI from WinForms, and let's click the convert to Telerik controls. And this brings us to this conversion dialog. Okay, and yeah, here you can select the version to convert to. I have here the two versions, and I'll just select here the first one, and you can select the controls to be converted. But let's leave everything as default. I'll just remove the option to create a backup because I'm just storing this project in GitHub in Git, and I can just use Git to as a backup. Okay, and I'll start the conversion process, and it can take a while. Yeah, it says that it will convert those projects, and just hit the continue. It will add the correct assemblies for me, and it starts to update the references and things. And while we are waiting for this converter to complete, let's take a 10-minute break again, and we'll see what the converter has done for us after that. Okay, so let's take a 10-minute break.